I never thought my life would take such a sharp turn. My name is Jake, and I'm just a regular guy, 35, married for almost 10 years to a woman named Sarah. We met in college, and life seemed perfect. We shared the same friends, same interests, and built a life together that I thought was unshakable. But lately, things had felt off. It started as little things: a few late nights at work, her constant need for me time, and that nagging feeling that something just wasn't right. I remember the last anniversary we celebrated. Sarah received a stunning diamond ring from me, the kind that would make any woman swoon. But as I watched her put it on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was changing between us. She smiled, sure, but there was a weird distance in her eyes. The sparkle of the ring seemed to dust over something more significant, a facade I was starting to see through. About 2 months after that anniversary, I noticed Sarah's behavior shift even more. She became more secretive, always guarded with her phone, and started using it in a way that felt suspicious. At first, I chalked it up to her new job. She was working in marketing and had a lot of late hours. A part of me wanted to trust her because that's what you do in a marriage. You give your partner the benefit of the doubt. But the gut feeling kept gnawing at me. What finally pushed me over the edge was one fateful Saturday. I had decided to surprise Sarah with a homemade dinner, a simple way to rekindle the spark we used to have. I left work early, excited to set the table and light some candles. As I walked into our house, I was hit with an unusual silence. Normally, Sarah would be blaring her favorite music, but instead, I found her phone buzzing incessantly on the kitchen counter. I picked it up, a decision I know most people would call a breach of trust, but in that moment, I felt desperate. I flipped it over and saw a series of messages from a guy named Mark. They were flirty, full of inside jokes and emojis that made my stomach churn. My heart was racing as I clicked through, the words getting more intimate with each message. It all clicked: the late nights, the secrecy. I was frozen. I felt sick, like I had eaten something bad. I couldn't believe this was happening to me. The laughter we shared, the memories we built, it felt suddenly like a lie. When Sarah finally came home, she was cheerful, her hair flowing, and she had that radiant smile. I stood there, heart pounding, still holding her phone, ready to confront her with everything. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the tempest inside me. Her smile faltered as she saw the expression on my face. "What's wrong?" she replied, sounding almost too innocent. I slammed the phone down on the table and watched her face drain of color. "Who the hell is Mark?" Her eyes darted around the room, and for a moment I could see her mind racing, crafting a lie. "Jake, it's not what you think. He's just a friend from work." "A friend?" I could barely contain my fury. "A friend who you're texting like that. Miss you, can't wait to see you. Don't lie to me, Sarah." She backtracked, trying to defuse the situation with excuses that sounded rehearsed. "It was just harmless flirting." "I swear you've been so distant lately, I just needed someone." Her words stung. I had poured my heart into this marriage, yet here she was, blaming me for her betrayal. The anger surged within me, but deep down I felt the sadness creeping in, overshadowing the rage. "Harmless flirting? You're sleeping with him, aren't you?" I couldn't help but raise my voice. The tears were welling up in my eyes, but I fought them back. "No, I would never." She cried, and yet the look on her face told me everything I needed to know. That confrontation shattered something in me. The woman I thought I knew had become a stranger, one who was capable of such deceit. I had to think clearly now. This was no longer just about my feelings, but what I would do next. The emotional impact hit harder than anything else. I was angry, confused, and heartbroken all at once. The trust that built our life together crumbled in mere moments, and I felt lost. My first instinct was to fight, to hold on to what we had built, but the deeper I dug into my feelings, I realized I couldn't just let this go. But what was I going to do about it? How could I move forward from this betrayal? I didn't know it yet, but this moment would set me on a path toward a decision that would change everything. It was time to devise a plan, a way to reclaim my life and show Sarah that she had underestimated me. After that confrontation, I felt like I was living in a haze. The anger churned within me, but more than that, I felt a deep sense of betrayal. I was unsure of what to do next. The whirlwind of emotions consumed me, and I was stuck in this limbo of shock. I couldn't just act on impulse. I needed to think strategically. The next few days were agonizing. Sarah continued with her facade, acting as if everything was fine, but I could see the cracks in her mask. She would come home from work late, and I would find myself waiting for her, stewing in my thoughts. I became a detective. I scoured through every detail of our life together and searched for clues, trying to figure out how deep this betrayal ran. Our once warm home felt cold and foreign, like a place filled with reminders of what I had lost. I needed proof, something to take with me when I was ready to confront her again. So I turned to social media. I created a fake account, a simple profile with no pictures, just a name. I started to follow Sarah's friends and acquaintances. One of them, a girl named Jess, seemed to be particularly close to Sarah. I sent her a message and, pretending to be a new friend, asked about Sarah's recent activities. Within a few days, I received a reply. Jess mentioned that Sarah had been spending time with Mark outside of work. They had gone for drinks, and she had even seen them together at a restaurant downtown. My heart raced as I read the message. It felt like a confirmation of my worst fears. I couldn't believe I had been so blind. This information fueled my anger and determination. I decided it was time to take control. I wasn't going to let Sarah's betrayal define me. If she thought she could have her cake and eat it too, she was mistaken. I needed to build something for myself, something that would show her that I was not someone to be trifled with. I had always been interested in investing and entrepreneurship, but had never pursued it seriously. Now, it was my chance to make a name for myself and prove to Sarah just how much I could achieve. I began to research investment strategies, potential startups, and ways to turn a profit. My nights were consumed with reading articles, watching YouTube videos, and connecting with people in the business world. Slowly, I started to formulate a plan. I would use the money I had saved from our joint accounts, money that I had earned through my own hard work, and invest in a small business. The idea was to create something valuable, something that could thrive in the long run. I wanted to build a business worth more than diamonds. I found a small, struggling coffee shop in a nice part of town. It had potential but needed a fresh perspective. After weeks of meetings and discussions, I managed to negotiate a fair deal and take ownership. The first few weeks were overwhelming, cleaning, organizing, and rebranding. But with each passing day, I felt a sense of purpose growing inside me. The excitement of building something from the ground up consumed me, and I reveled in the challenge. Meanwhile, Sarah continued with her lies, acting as if nothing had happened. I watched her go about her life, and at times it made me sick to my stomach. I couldn't believe how insistent she was that everything was fine. But I was no longer the same man she had married. I was transforming, channeling my pain into something productive. As my coffee shop began to gain traction, I felt a sense of pride swell within me. I hired a great team, revamped the menu, and started marketing it as a community hub. It became a place where people wanted to gather, share stories, and enjoy quality coffee. With each sale, I felt more empowered, more confident. And then one evening, after a particularly busy day, I received a text from Sarah. "Can we talk? I miss you." Looking at the screen, I felt a mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to scream, to lash out, and let all my pent-up anger flow. But another part of me felt a strange sense of calm. I was no longer the man who would accept betrayal without a fight. I had built something real, something that mattered more than the lies she had spun. I decided we could meet, but this time I would not be the one on the defense. I would be the one holding the cards. I wanted her to see the new me, the man who had risen from the ashes of our broken relationship, a man who was ready to reclaim his power. As I prepared for our meeting, a plan began to form in my mind. I would confront her again, but this time it wouldn't just be about her betrayal. I wanted to demonstrate how I had transformed my life and how I was moving forward, whether she chose to join me or not. The game was on, and I was ready to play. The day of our meeting came, and I felt a mix of anticipation and nerves. I had transformed in ways I never thought possible, but now it was time to face Sarah and the reality of our situation head-on. We agreed to meet at a small park near our home, a place we used to visit often before everything changed. The irony wasn't lost on me. This was the same place where we shared laughter and dreams, and now it felt like a battleground. As I arrived, I spotted Sarah sitting on a bench, fiddling with her phone, looking both anxious and annoyed. She had dressed nicely, as if trying to impress me, but I saw through the facade. The woman I had once loved was still there, but I couldn't ignore the ruthless, selfish side that had emerged. "Hey," she said, forcing a smile as I took a seat beside her. "Hey," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. The air felt thick with unspoken tension, and I knew I had to break the ice. "I got your message. I just wanted to talk about us," she said, glancing away, her eyes betraying a hint of guilt. "I've missed you, and I think we can work things out." Her words made my blood boil. How could she miss me after everything? "You mean after you were messing around with Mark? Is that what you're calling working things out?" She flinched at my words, her expression shifting from hopeful to defensive. "It wasn't like that. It was just a Jake, I was confused, and I didn't mean for it to go that far. I took a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure. "A mistake. Sarah, this isn't just a small misstep. You lied to me, you betrayed me, and now you want to act as if everything is normal. Do you think you can just erase what happened?" "I know I messed up, okay," she snapped, her voice rising. "But I'm trying to make things right. I don't want to lose what we have." "What do we have, Sarah? A marriage built on lies." I shot back, feeling the anger bubbling within me. "You don't get to come here and act like I'm supposed to forget everything just because you're feeling guilty now." Her eyes filled with tears, and for a fleeting moment I felt a pang of sympathy. But then I remembered the hurt, the betrayal, and the nights I spent alone while she was off with someone else. I couldn't let my emotions sway me back to a place where I would be vulnerable again. "I've done something for myself," I continued, my voice steady. "While you were out with Mark, I've been building a business. I've turned my pain into something productive." Her expression shifted from anger to confusion, and I could see the realization dawning on her. "What do you mean, a business?" I leaned in slightly, wanting her to understand the depth of my transformation. "I bought a coffee shop. It's been tough, but it's thriving. I've met amazing people and learned so much about myself in the process." "What?" She breathed, disbelief evident in her tone. "You bought a coffee shop? Why didn't you tell me?" "Why would I? You didn't seem interested in my life when you were too busy cheating on me," I countered, holding her gaze. "But now it's my turn to make something of myself, with or without you." There was a moment of silence as she processed my words. I could see the wheels turning in her head, and I knew she was beginning to understand that I was no longer the same man who would accept her betrayal with open arms. I had reclaimed my power, and I wasn't afraid to use it. "Jake, please," she said, her voice softer. "Now, I'm sorry, I made a mistake and I want to fix it. We can go to counseling, we can work on us together." I shook my head. "You don't just get to decide that after everything. Trust is earned and you've broken mine. I need time to think about what I want, what I deserve." At that moment, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I had been through the ringer, and now, standing in front of her, I realized I was worth more than her betrayal. I had built something for myself, and I wouldn't allow her to drag me back into the depths of despair. "Jake," she pleaded, reaching out for my hand. "I love you. I want to be with you, but I need you to give me another chance." "Love isn't just words, Sarah. It's actions. You need to show me that you can be trusted again," I replied, pulling my hand away. "But right now, I can't even look at you without feeling the weight of your lies." With that, I stood up, leaving her staring at me, tears streaming down her face. I felt a tinge of regret, but I knew I was making the right choice. It was time to focus on my future, my business, and my healing. I walked away, feeling a mixture of pain and liberation. This was only the beginning of my journey. I had taken the first step towards reclaiming my life, and I wasn't about to let anyone, especially not Sarah, take that away from me. The path ahead was uncertain, but I was ready to embrace it. I was ready to show her that while she might have chosen betrayal, I had chosen strength. Walking away from Sarah that day felt surreal. My heart was still racing, caught in the whirlwind of emotions, but a part of me felt exhilarated. I had stood up for myself and declared my independence, something I never thought I could do after such a betrayal. It was like shedding a heavy coat I had worn for years, leaving me feeling lighter and more in control of my destiny. In the following weeks, I threw myself into my business. The coffee shop, which I had named Brood Awakening, became my sanctuary. I spent long hours there, perfecting the menu, organizing events, and building a community that embraced the place as their own. I hired a diverse team, including a talented barista named Maya, who quickly became an integral part of the shop's success. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and under her guidance, our coffee sales began to soar. I started implementing community events like open mic nights and art shows featuring local artists, which brought in a steady stream of customers. Each day felt like a small victory, a testament to my hard work and determination. I had finally found my passion, and it felt rewarding to see my efforts paying off. But while I was busy building my business, Sarah was still lurking in the background. She would occasionally reach out, sending texts that ranged from apologetic to desperate. One day she even showed up at the coffee shop, trying to engage with me as if nothing had changed. I remember the day vividly. It was a Saturday, and the place was bustling. "Hey Jake," she said, a forced smile plastered on her face as she approached the counter. "I was just in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by." I looked up from the espresso machine, forcing myself to remain calm. "This is a public place, Sarah. You can come in if you want." She glanced around, noticing the vibrant atmosphere filled with laughter and conversation. "Wow, it's really busy. I'm glad to see you're doing well." "Yeah, I'm doing fine," I replied, keeping my tone flat. I had worked hard for this success, and I wasn't about to let her walk in and act like everything was okay. "Are you looking for something specific?" "I just wanted to talk," she said, her voice softening. "I've been thinking about what you said. I want to show you that I can change." I raised an eyebrow, crossing my arms. "Change how? By pretending to be someone you're not? You had your chance, Sarah. You made your choices, and now I'm making mine." She hesitated, the hurt visible in her eyes. "Please, just give me a chance to explain. This isn't just about us anymore. I've realized how much I've taken for granted, and I want to fix it." I felt a pang of sympathy, but I quickly brushed it aside. The trust was broken, and I wasn't about to give her another opportunity to hurt me. "I'm busy. I have customers to serve," I replied, turning my attention back to the line forming at the counter. As she walked away, I felt a mix of emotions. Part of me still felt sad for what we had lost, but I also felt empowered. I had taken control of my life, and the thought of going back to what we had was suffocating. Days turned into weeks, and as my business continued to thrive, I found myself meeting new people and building new relationships. I even started dating again, cautiously allowing myself to open up to the idea of love without the shadows of betrayal looming over me. I met a woman named Emily at one of our open mic nights. She was witty, creative, and passionate about art, and I found myself drawn to her energy. We began spending time together, laughing over coffee and sharing stories about our lives. I felt a spark I hadn't felt in a long time, and it was both exhilarating and terrifying. I was slowly learning how to trust again, how to let someone else in. But in the back of my mind, there was still a part of me that worried about repeating past mistakes. Sarah, on the other hand, didn't take my moving on well. She would occasionally pop up at the shop, clearly upset to see me with someone else. I remember one particular evening when Emily and I were enjoying a quiet moment together, and Sarah stormed in, her face flushed with anger. "Jake," she shouted, her voice cutting through the ambience. "Seriously, you've already moved on. Do you really think you can just replace me?" Emily looked taken aback, caught off guard by Sarah's outburst. I could feel the tension rising, my heart pounding in my chest. "Sarah, this isn't the place for this," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "You need to leave." "What, so now you're ashamed of what we had?" She shot back, her eyes blazing. "I'm the one who made you who you are today." I shook my head, anger boiling beneath the surface. "No, you didn't. I did this all on my own. You had your chance and you blew it. I'm not ashamed of moving forward." She stood there for a moment, shock evident on her face, before storming out of the shop, leaving a heavy silence behind her. I turned to Emily, who was still visibly rattled. "I'm so sorry you had to see that," I said, running a hand through my hair. "It's okay," she replied softly, her eyes searching mine for reassurance. "You're stronger than that. It takes guts to stand up to someone like that." Her words meant more to me than I could express. I realized that I was no longer the man who would let his life be dictated by someone else's choices. I had taken control, and I was learning how to embrace my future. But as much as I was moving forward, I knew I had to face one final confrontation with Sarah. I couldn't allow her to linger in the shadows of my new life, always trying to disrupt my peace. It was time to lay everything out on the table and finally put our past to rest. I would have to make it clear that I was done with the drama, and that I was ready to live my life on my own terms, free from her toxicity. So I made plans for the final conversation. It was time to settle things once and for all. The day I decided to confront Sarah one last time felt both liberating and daunting. I knew that I had to set clear boundaries, to finally close the door on a chapter that had dragged on for too long. I arranged to meet her at the park again, a place that now felt heavy with memories, both good and bad. I wanted to do this in a neutral space, somewhere we had shared joy but also pain. When I arrived, I saw her sitting on the same bench where we had previously confronted each other. This time, she looked different. There was no forced smile. Instead, her eyes were puffy as if she'd been crying. My first instinct was to feel sympathy to soften my resolve, but I quickly pushed that thought aside. This was about me taking control of my life and making it clear that I was no longer the man she thought she could manipulate. "Jake," she said softly as I approached, "thank you for meeting me." "Let's get straight to the point, Sarah. I don't want to rehash the past or get into another argument," I replied, my tone firm. "I need to set some boundaries." She nodded, her expression a mix of apprehension and hope. "I understand. I just want to talk and explain myself. I truly regret what happened." "Regrets don't change the facts," I said bluntly, cutting her off. "You cheated on me, you broke my trust, and you need to understand that I cannot go back to what we had." "I know," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes, "and I feel terrible about it. I was in a bad place and I didn't handle it well, but I want to make it right." I took a deep breath, reminding myself of my strength. Making it right isn't as simple as you think. You have to realize that your actions have consequences. I'm not the same person I was when we first got married, and I don't want to go back to that version of our relationship. I've built something for myself, and I'm not willing to jeopardize that. The weight of my words hung in the air, and I could see her processing the reality of what I was saying. "Jake, please," she pleaded. "I know I messed up, but I want to show you that I can change. I've been working on myself, going to therapy. I see now how toxic my behavior was." "Therapy is great, but it doesn't erase the hurt you caused," I replied, keeping my tone steady. "I need to prioritize my well-being now. I've spent too long worrying about you and your feelings. I can't keep doing that." She looked down, her expression shifting as if she was grappling with the reality of our situation. "I understand, and I don't expect things to go back to normal, but I still love you, Jake. I don't want to lose you." Her confession caught me off guard. I had spent months focusing on my own healing and growth, and hearing her say she loved me felt like a double-edged sword. "It's nice to hear you say that, but love isn't enough. You need to show me that you can be a better person, and right now, you're not in my life anymore." "I'll always be here if you change your mind," she said quietly, her voice trembling. I felt a pang of sadness for what we once had, but it wasn't enough to make me reconsider. "This isn't about you holding on to hope. It's about me moving forward. I can't keep coming back to this painful cycle. You need to let me go." Tears streamed down her face as she nodded, finally understanding the gravity of my words. "I get it. You deserve to be happy, even if it's without me." I took another deep breath, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Sarah, but I can't be part of your journey anymore. I need to focus on my own happiness." For a moment we sat in silence, both of us lost in our thoughts. I felt a strange sense of closure washing over me. I had faced her, confronted her about her betrayal, and stood firm in my decision to move on. I was finally reclaiming my life, and it felt empowering. As I stood up, I glanced down at her. "Goodbye, Sarah. I hope you find peace." With that, I turned and walked away, leaving her sitting on the bench with the remnants of our past. In the days that followed, I felt lighter. I had cleared my mind of the toxic weight Sarah had put upon me, and I was ready to embrace my future. My business continued to flourish, and I found joy in every cup of coffee served at Brewed Awakening. Each smile from a customer became a reminder of how far I had come, and it fueled my determination to keep moving forward. Emily and I began to grow closer, sharing new experiences and laughter. I found myself genuinely looking forward to spending time with her, and it felt refreshing to be with someone who uplifted me rather than dragged me down. I was slowly learning to trust again, but this time, I was doing it on my own terms. Life was changing rapidly, and I was determined to embrace every moment. I had learned that true strength comes from within, and while heartbreak can be devastating, it can also lead to profound growth. I was ready to move into my future, full of hope and excitement, and leave the shadows of my past behind me. But the final lesson was yet to come, and I had to prepare myself for the unexpected. I had no idea how Sarah would react now that I had truly cut ties, but I was ready to face whatever came my way. I had built my life back, and no one was going to take that away from me again. The days turned into weeks, and life continued to evolve in ways I hadn't anticipated. Brood Awakening was thriving, and with every passing day, I felt more accomplished. My mornings were filled with the aroma of fresh coffee, laughter from customers, and the bustling energy that came from running my own business. I was proud of what I had built, a stark contrast to the chaos that once filled my life with Sarah. Emily and I developed a deeper bond, our nights filled with laughter and stories over coffee in the shop or cozy dinners in local restaurants. She had a way of making the mundane feel vibrant, and I found myself not just growing to like her, but genuinely care for her. The more we connected, the more I realized how important it was to be with someone who uplifted me, someone who saw my worth and supported my dreams. But even as I reveled in this newfound happiness, I couldn't shake the feeling that Sarah was still lingering in the background. Despite our final confrontation, she seemed determined to maintain a connection, and it was beginning to grate on my nerves. She would text occasionally, sharing updates about her therapy or trying to engage in small talk, but I remained steadfast in my decision to move on. One crisp evening, as I was closing up the shop, I heard the familiar chime of the entrance bell. I glanced up, prepared to greet another customer, but my heart sank when I saw Sarah standing there, looking disheveled and panicked. She was clutching her phone tightly, her eyes wide with urgency. "Jake, we need to talk," she said, her voice shaky. "Sarah, I've made it clear that I don't want to have these conversations anymore," I replied, my tone firm but calm. "Please just hear me out," she pleaded, stepping closer. "It's important." Against my better judgment, I allowed her inside, locking the door behind her. "Fine, say what you need to say, but this is the last time." She took a deep breath, her expression shifting from anger to desperation. "I've been doing a lot of thinking. I know I messed up, but I've changed. I've started a new job, met new people, and I'm really trying to get my life together. But there's something else, something I need to tell you." "What is it?" I asked, my patience thinning. "You don't need to drag this out." She hesitated, fidgeting with her hands. "I ran into Mark the other day. He's been trying to reach out to me and I've been ignoring him, but he told me something that shook me to my core." I narrowed my eyes, feeling the familiar resentment bubble up. What could he possibly say that would matter to me? "He said he's been seeing someone else, and it made me realize that I don't want that life anymore," she confessed, her voice breaking. "I want to focus on myself and make amends for everything I did. I'm so sorry for how I treated you, Jake. I didn't appreciate you when I had the chance." As I listened to her, I felt a mix of emotions, anger, pity, and a flicker of sympathy. "You didn't appreciate me because you were too caught up in your own selfishness," I said bluntly. "You can't just decide to change when it suits you." "I know," she replied, tears streaming down her face. "But I'm serious about wanting to make things right. I never wanted to hurt you. I miss the good times we had." I took a deep breath, trying to process her words. The past was filled with so much pain, and while I didn't want to carry that weight any longer, I also didn't want to dismiss her feelings entirely. However, I couldn't allow myself to be pulled back into the cycle of hurt. "Sarah, I wish you well, but I am moving on. I've found happiness without you, and I'm not looking back." Her shoulders slumped as she absorbed my words, and for a moment I felt a pang of regret for the woman I had once loved, but I quickly steeled myself. "You need to accept that our relationship is over. I'm building a future without you." She nodded slowly, wiping her tears. "I understand. I just wanted to let you know that I'm truly sorry for everything. I hope you Find the happiness you deserve. Thank you, but I think we both need to find our own paths now, I replied, my voice steady. As she turned to leave, I felt a sense of finality wash over me. I had confronted the ghosts of my past, and now I was truly ready to embrace my future. Over the next few weeks, I focused on my business and my budding relationship with Emily. I learned to communicate better, to trust myself and others, and to build a life that reflected who I was becoming. Every laugh shared with Emily felt like a victory, a testament to my resilience. I started to think about the future, about what I really wanted. Sure, I was still healing from the scars of my past, but I was also building something incredible in its place. I had learned that life was about choices, and I was choosing to surround myself with positivity, growth, and love. Eventually, I decided to host a community event at Brood Awakening, one that would celebrate new beginnings. I invited local artists, musicians, and friends, creating an atmosphere filled with joy and hope. That night, as I watched people connect and share their stories, I felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment wash over me. This was the kind of life I wanted to cultivate. As I stood behind the counter, sipping my coffee and taking in the atmosphere, I realized that while the past would always be a part of me, it didn't define me. I had come through the storm, and now I was ready to embrace whatever came next with open arms. And that was the beauty of it all. While Sarah had chosen betrayal, I had chosen strength, resilience, and a future that sparkled even brighter than any diamond.